You have collaborated with so many musical legends, Stevie Wonder, Elton John, Beyonce. Was there anyone who you were just so starstruck by?
I'm in my own little planet, basically. So I practice, and when I was in New York City, I was practicing really like 7 hours per day sometimes. So when sometimes I get called for to play with Ariana Grande, I don't know, or somebody like Ed Sheeran, I will not know who they were. So I get a call, I would say, "Oh wow, David Letterman." Ask,
Like
so,
who?
yeah,
Okay.
somebody asked me to play on David Letterman. I didn't know. I thought he was a singer. And I was like, okay, cool. And they thought I was joking. Like, and then the next day I was on David Letterman, and I was like, oh wow, that's a TV studio.
Hello, I'm Amy Bishop with WRR 101. Very excited to be joined today by a 6-time Grammy Award affiliated nominee, a violinist and composer who's originally from France, but is really kind of a citizen of the world, but who now calls North Texas home as professor of jazz violin at the University of North Texas. Scott Tixier, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Well, there is so much I want to get to, including your new composition for Hilary Hahn. But first, I would like to have our audience get to know you more because, of course, we can read your bio online, we can read your Wikipedia page, but it's always better to hear someone tell their story. So I want to, go way back to being a kid in France. And what was it that first led to you taking those first music lessons, and what led you to music?
Very good question. So I started about 20 minutes from Paris in the suburbs where I grew up with my parents. They're both artists. My mom is a choreographer and dancer, and as well as a pianist, classical. And my dad is an actor and a comedian, and also he writes plays. And I'm an identical twin. So that was my where I was born into this family. They were coming back from shows late at night, like sometimes 2, 3 a.m. I don't remember the exact time, but I remember that they had glitters on their face, makeup, costumes, and they're always talking about the next show. So that was kind of like my environment. And by the time I was 3 years old, my parents put us into initiation for music at the conservatory, the local conservatory at the time, called Conservatoire Francis Poulain. And we learned basically rhythm with percussions and piano. I mean, like initiation to those instruments. And eventually, at 5 years old, we had an opportunity to choose an instrument at the same conservatory and starting solfège lessons. So it was very classical, very conservatory track. And I chose a violin because I was really drawn into it by the sound, the kind of a romantic aspect of it. Even at 5 years old, I really remember vividly kind of a emotional aspect of the violin. And my twin brother chose the piano. So
That worked out well so that you didn't have to compete for instruments or anything.
yeah, it was really important.
And then from there, as you got older, you went on to kind of follow the conservatory path as well.
Mhm. So yeah, I started at 5 picking up the violin. Then I think when I was it's kind of blurry, but when I was probably around 6 and a half, I started really like playing the repertoire. I mean, like the practicing the repertoire with my teacher at the conservatory. And then by the time I was 12 years old, we moved to a different conservatory, which was more like a regional conservatory. Now it has been changed. The name is like there's a special specificity for each conservatory in France. Some of them are national, some of them are considered like regional or municipal, which is like local. So we went to basically a higher tier, the conservatory, by the age of 12, and we actually went into a special division into a school, which is a normal school, like it would be like, I think, high school here. So at 12 years old, I think you start your first year in high school in
Middle
America.
school and
Yeah.
then
So
yeah,
yeah. So
yeah.
in France, I think it starts
Mm.
like this. And so the class was in the morning. You do regular studies, academic studies, and every afternoon, um, every day of the week, you go to the conservatory to study solfège, choir, ballet, dance, and analyze and writing, and also performance. So it was like very intense program,
Yeah.
and it was on audition only. So at 12 we auditioned, and you have to have good you have to have a good academic scores, as well as a very um, like a serious level in your music.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And then in your 20s when you pursued, when you at the university level,
yeah.
where did you go?
So
And
basically, the program starts when you're 12, and then every conservatory is kind of connected with the same policies. With also like kind of like things with the states and or the governments. So when a conservatory is considered to be eligible for higher education or things like this, there's a bridge to it. So I didn't really add a big change. So I started at 12 at the regional conservatory, and by the time I finished my studies at the high school, it was time to for university. I went to the conservatory in Paris, which is also a higher tier. And um, at this moment, there's like um, a big moment in my life, because I can go to university, and which I did. I signed up for university regular musicology or music studies. And I thought it was a very slow, and because I had all the studies before at the conservatory at an early age, I was very not matched with the same level of expertise. In every students were older than me. I think at the time I was 18 years old, and I felt really discouraged, and like I was wasting my time at the university, because the program was general music and not specific and not performance driven. People didn't really play an instrument; they were just talking about music. So I decided to give up and not go to the university and continue conservatory until I get my diplomas, and so which actually recognized in the US as higher education
Mhm.
degrees. No, so there's a lot of things here that happened here around between 18 and 20 was 2 years.
Mhm.
Because at age 16 I pretty much I'd almost finished my conservatory education. So so it was like I needed to stay just to because I was too young in a way.
Yeah.
So
And you started, your early path was classical,
mhm.
and there's been a debate that, classical musicians have to stay in one box and jazz musicians have to stay in this other box, but there are plenty of people who have played in the same sandbox with music, famously Wynton Marsalis and Keith Jarrett, Dave Brubeck, and George Gershwin, if we want to go really far back, and many others. So having begun
Mozart too. Mozart.
oh, you're
Really,
right.
really far
Yes, yes,
back. No,
yes.
okay, I'm just
Yeah,
kidding.
you're right. It um, and you obviously began as a classically trained musician, but then you gravitated to jazz. Is there a particular moment or experience that sparked that interest?
Yeah, so for me, music is music. So I know it's cliche to say that, but and it's also sometimes it could be seen as condescending, because oh, music is music, so show me or you can play it, no? So but in reality, when you go to a certain depth or intensity or deep inside the music, you realize that every style is intertwined and connected and influence one another. So there's not when you look at music a musician and you practice, I understand the aspect where you need to kind of separate the styles, because you need to actually learn a style at some point. Like it's a perspective, and it's what I've been doing for the better part of my life. I've been studying first the instrument itself, not the music, the instrument, the technicity, and I'm still working on it because it's a lifetime commitment. But then on top of that, you starting learning about different genre of music or different cultures, which is kind of you can exchange those words. But when learning about jazz, when I was about 14 years old, I discovered this music, jazz music improvisation, and I went really deep into it. I went to the record store every day, studied, went to jam session in Paris. I didn't even know I was being uh, part of a scene or being a professional musician. I never thought about being that. I just wanted to study the music, and eventually it led me to a moment where I made one with the genre. So it was not really studying music. It was more studying about myself, about my voice. And when I have this ability to really talk with my music, it's where I get approached by other people that are also deep inside their studies or deep inside their artistry in the music. So somebody like Hilary Hahn will talk to me in on a not on a technical level, more about philosophical level, like mindset of our musicianship. So it's where it becomes not a career or a collaboration. It's more like a conversation with another perspective. And
Mhm.
classical music and jazz have different perspective, but they are from the same roots, which is music. So,
Right.
uh,
Yeah. Yeah. Did well, so personally, a couple of my favorite jazz violinists are Jean-Luc Ponty,
oh yeah,
and Stéphane Grappelli. What is it? They're both French too.
yeah,
So,
exactly.
what is it about French jazz violinists?
So yeah, exactly. So I happen to know Jean-Luc Ponty very well. He was my mentor early on. I met him when I was 14, and we're still in touch. He's still around. He just retired last year, and he lives in Paris now. And we had this conversation many times, and he's considered as the godfather of modern jazz violin, and Stefan Grappelli would be considered as the old school, like jazz violinist with a style of gypsy jazz and Django
Django
Reinhardt.
Reinhardt, yeah.
So this all this was conversation inside the scene, but in reality. There's a long tradition of jazz violinists in Europe, and not only in France, but France happened to be kind of like the forefront of music festivals and music opportunities. So therefore, it created more opportunity for maybe jazz violinists in France early on when the industry was developing. So I think it's one of the reasons because we have amazing violinists in Poland, in Ukraine, as well as Romania, and are improvisers and amazing jazz violinists. I can think about Robbie Lakatos, who is amazing Zygan violinist, and other people
Mhm.
like Zbigniew Seifert, that is a Polish, and so I think it come from the French thing came from the particular geopolitic and
Mhm.
context and all those opportunities that met, and
It's
in yeah.
it's
So
kind of like,
sorry, I
the
took a bit.
same well, it's kind of like the, I think of it as sort of like a similar path of New Orleans,
Mhm.
where you've got the French musical influence as well as a variety of other cultures who are all kind of in the same place and the same time and borrowing from each other too.
Exactly. And to continue what your thoughts, I agree. There's always behind music. There's always a context that is bigger than music, or um, almost not bigger, but if you look from a distance, it makes sense. So it's the music originate always from a social, cultural climate or environment. And in France, still to today, the Parisian scene, which is not France, it's just a part of France, but has a very strong influence into the entire continent in Europe.
Yeah.
So it goes. There's the most jazz festival in France. There's so many jazz. I don't want to name them because I don't want to make a publicity for one or another. But this you can look online. Or there's a lot of jazz festivals
Mhm.
in France, and then there's also in Switzerland, in Italy, in Germany. But the really like the global scene in Europe would be centered in Paris, in France,
Yeah.
and then you go to New York and you see the same thing. And there's also exchange with musicians since the bebop era, with jazz musicians going to Paris and having a better life.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, I mean, George Gershwin wrote An American in Paris.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
that was early on in that Parisian American exchange of musical ideas. Um, in 2018, you got an additional name, which is Professor Tixier.
Oof.
at the University of North Texas as the associate professor of jazz violin and director of the Jazz String Lab.
Mhm.
What led to your interest in becoming an educator, and why did you choose the University of North Texas?
Well, that's a question with tiroir, I would say in France, with so many. I want to start by the first part of the question, which is why did I um, uh, become an educator. So I think I don't want to try to be smart, like, but being an educator, I think for me is part of being a musician. So there's many way of being an educator. You can do it in an academic way, like in an environment where it's in a university, but you can also do it. In more traditional ways, on the bandstand, on stage, in the backstage, you can do it mentoring peers or colleagues or sometimes younger musicians. So for me, I started um, teaching very early because I started uh, at the conservatory being like just a student. But when I started jazz, I was 14 years old and I didn't have any teacher at the beginning, and I had to find my teacher. So I went to my favorite improvisers. Sometimes they happen to be violinist, saxophonist, pianist, and Jean-Luc Ponty was one of them. But it was probably the most important. but uh, but then I, at the time when I was 16 years old, I was offered to teach part time in a jazz camp in south of France. So I was every students were my age, were like 15, 16 years old, sometimes older, 17. I was 16, and I was teaching the jazz string program there. I
Yeah.
mean, so I started there. So it didn't start with UNT.
You've been teaching for a long time,
Yeah, because I'm
really.
40 years old now. So it's
Yeah.
been a and
Yeah.
so when you teach, you always have to reflect on your own crafts, and so it's a process. So to get to your question, it's like the reason why I became a official educator, like with a title professor, is because not for the title and not for certainly to get a job. It's not a job for me. It's about transmission. It's about continuing the tradition because before. Even though UNT was the first program in the world to offer jazz studies in the entire world, which is incredible. In 1947, it's not something that started at the university. The tradition started before,
Mhm.
and I think UNT was very smart to create this program because it's actually kind of a continuity and normal. It doesn't seem out of place. It seems like actually necessary,
Mhm.
especially today. But so the reason is like I wanted to be part of a tradition and continue learning because when you teach, you're also getting an intel on what's happening today, you know.
Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
yeah,
So many music educators talk about how, how enriching it is for them as well. Like the drummer Stuart Copeland, he was with
Mhm.
the Police, and
Yeah, I work with him actually.
yeah. Well, I interviewed him last time he was here for a thing
Wow,
at SMU,
wow.
and he was just talking so much about how much he got from teaching and master classes, and how he was like, I feel like I'm getting even more than the students are out of this because I know a lot of people who say that they do feel like it makes them better musicians
Exactly.
as well.
Yeah, he's a wonderful musician. I worked with him in Los Angeles like a few years ago for a show where I was like part of the band.
Well, actually, that's a good segue into our next, my next question, which is, you have collaborated with so many musical legends, Stevie Wonder, Elton John, Beyonce, Hans Zimmer, Kenny Barron, Gladys Knight, and many others. So the next question I have is actually two part. Number one, of all of the legendary people who have you have met and worked alongside through the years, was there anyone who you were just so starstruck by and were just super excited to meet, maybe nervous to meet? And, the second question is, who is still on your wish list of
Oh,
people to collaborate with?
wow, those are very interesting questions. So yeah, I can tell you have been working a lot in this industry because you're really good interviewer. So yeah, the first question, the first my response would be like I've I don't think I've been starstruck, as you say, because the reason is not because I'm think I'm better or like I don't care. No, I really care about music, and sometimes I really care also about um, the kind of like the artists. And but funny enough, I was so focused on getting better at violin, and I'm still focused on that. Um, but I'm in my own little planet basically. So I practice, and when I was in New York City, I was practicing really like 7 hours per day sometimes, and it was a normal day for me. So I was really immersed into learning and shutting down the noise around. So when sometimes I get called for to play with Ariana Grande, I don't know, or somebody like Ed Sheeran, I will not know who they were, because I was actually it's not I'm not proud of it, because you should be aware of your surrounding and know what's happening in the scene beyond your own thing. But I was younger, and I was really driven by just getting to play, practice. So I get a call. I would say, "Oh wow, David Letterman." I ask, so,
Like, who?
yeah,
Okay.
somebody asked me to play on David Letterman. I didn't know. I thought he was a singer, and I was like, "Okay, cool." And I thought I was joking, like. And then the next day I was on David Letterman, and I was like, "Oh wow, that's a TV studio." So, and then so I think one of us this part of my life was the fact that I was not really starstruck. People trusted me more because if they really know I was there for the right thing, not to for the fame or to be around famous people. I was there to really do the best
Yeah.
at music. And I see a difference because sometimes I talk with Roger Waters, for example, from Pink Floyd,
Hmm.
and really really nice. I work with him on one of his last album, most not last because it was 2000 probably. I don't I forgot, the 2012 maybe or 14.
Okay.
But anyway, so and all this moment, the conversation, I was not starstruck. Starstruck. I was really thinking about how can I play, and in a way where I can still be myself, and sometimes not be too much of myself, because I need to serve the music of the artist that I'm
Yeah.
representing.
You don't want to overplay
Exactly.
as if
So
like,
it's
yeah.
it's a balance. Sometimes they want you to be yourself, and the artists want you to do a solo. I did a solo for John Legend, for example, on a Christmas song
Hmm.
that was not supposed to happen. I was at a session reading the chart, and at the end, they knew I was an improviser. I was the only improviser in the string section. They say, "Hey, Tixier, how about you take a solo?"
Hmm.
And I ended up they kept the solo on the record. And same thing for Stevie Wonder. When I play with Stevie, that would be an exception maybe, because I grew up listening to Stevie Wonder with my mom. And to be honest, the first rehearsal with Stevie when he was singing "Isn't She Lovely," and I was concertmaster first violin, like in he was right in front of me. There's a moment where I was not starstruck, but I was very emotional, and a tear came down.
Yeah.
I remember, and I was
Enamored. Yeah.
yeah, and then I got to work with it for 2 years, and I got solos and things. So I was really treated as almost like special in a way. Like
Hmm.
even though he treats everybody special because he's a very kind and nice
Yeah.
person, but I felt like wow, I can believe I'm getting to really talk music with Steve and
Yeah.
um, yeah.
Who and who I'm sure you have a long list of people who you do still want to work
Oh
with.
yeah.
Who are a few? Because
So
we can put it on record for
oh yeah.
if they're watching.
Oh yeah, of course. No,
We'll
that's
make an invitation
no,
right
no.
here.
So, so I was. It's funny because these questions. I think it's a kind of like a fantasy for musicians to get asked this question, and I've got asked this question before in different ways. But and it's true. We always have kind of aspirations and like dreams, you know. But I feel like for me, maybe I'm superstitious, but I feel like putting that in out like this,
Hmm.
it's not necessarily wise thing, because first of all, I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I really think when music is really really good, regardless of the notoriety or the fame of an artist, I think it's what really matters to me. But to be complete with this, I think it's important for me to stay curious, because you never know. Tomorrow there may be a brand new artist that nobody knows today, and they might ask me to work with them before they are like a big deal, and the music will be as good, you know.
Yep.
And in contrary, the artists that already made it and are that everybody wants to work with, obviously. Um, some of the artists are very extraordinary musicians, and so this some of them. I have an idea of who I would love to work with, but I don't want to put their name here because um,
It's almost like
yeah, I
superstitious,
feel
you
like
know? Yeah.
it's like I'm asking for hey, I need a gig. I need
Yeah.
it. I always need a gig, so just keep that in mind. But I just did a session with Mariah Carey, for example, like in Dallas, like recorded here, and it was last minute, and I hired a bunch of students and faculties, and that was something I never thought about Mariah Carey. But I love her music, you know,
Yeah.
and that happened because I don't ask for it. I feel like
Yeah.
I focus on the music and people can hear the honesty, the kind of like uh, the authenticity in
Mhm.
my aspiration of for music. So it's never about trying to chase one person, maybe Herbie Hancock. Okay,
Hey, well, he does a lot here in his
yeah,
town too,
maybe.
so
Okay, let's be honest. Okay, Herbie. If I can play with Herbie, basically it's been a dream because I did the first. I opened for him long time ago when I was 20 something in France at a big jazz festival with my twin brother, and it was 2011, I think. And he was there in the backstage. I saw him like it was at Jazz en Tête, a big
yeah,
festival in Clermont-Ferrand, and I love his music. I love his. I mean, he's such an influence for
yeah,
every
yeah.
jazz musician and every musician like beyond jazz. You know. So anyway,
And he has a big presence at, Booker T. Washington High School, so, he definitely, has a connection to Dallas, so
yeah,
I have confidence that will happen at some point.
Mr. Hancock, I'm here. Yeah.
Well, your new composition, Ressemblance,
Oui.
was a commission from the Tippett Rise Art Center and Hilary Hahn. So, talk about the genesis of that project and your collaboration with Hilary Hahn.
So, um, since you very classically aware, you know Hilary is an amazing uh, violinist, amazing artist, and so everybody knows who Hilary Hahn is. I grew up in Paris, listening to her music, to her records at early on when I was studying at the conservatory, and so it's always been around my mind to I always felt kind of a connection musically with her. Um, I don't know, it's hard to explain, but in interviews or the way she would decide to play something, even though I'm not a classical musician anymore, and I've never really been. I've been a student of classical music, but I always felt kind of a connection with the music somehow. Maybe it was delusional, like people are starstruck, no? But I was not. I was really about the music. So, and then eventually, I got to basically I went to a few of a concert. I never told her I was anonymous,
Mhm.
and somehow um, I followed her on Instagram or something like this. I forgot how it started, but maybe on social media, and I think she followed me back, and then all of a sudden we started talking, and the and she knew so much about the music. She studied, so she really cares about music and other artists. So she
Mhm.
studied other people, like
Yeah.
which is I don't know how she has time to do that, but she knew really my repertoire, the thing I've been recording before. She mentioned some albums, and she said, hey, "What you did on this album is pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Like I like this," and blah, blah. So eventually, she was interested about my perspective on improvisation, so she invited me to Yale College, where she had a residency, and where I was teaching a masterclass while she was teaching classical music to students. So that was the first kind of like uh, encounter or meeting,
Mm. Mhm.
and it was a few years ago, and we really had a good time. It was like really good for the music. I learned a lot, and she was really receptive to the way I improvise. So we stayed in touch, and eventually she had the opportunity to do a tour with a French repertoire with Debussy, Ravel, Fauré,
Mhm.
and she wanted to feature um, um, a contemporary composer. So there are Bunching Lamb, which is a contemporary composer, amazing composer, and myself. So that's how it started. And yeah, if you, I can, we can talk about the piece itself. But Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was curious about the meaning behind the
Okay.
title, and yeah, tell me about the piece and what it
Yeah.
means.
Sorry. So the ressemblance is it's a French word. It's also if you remove one s, it becomes English. But ressemblance means to be like, to be similar, to look alike sometimes. And it comes from two different origin stories. First, it's like the ressemblance between the classical scene and or the classical music and jazz in Paris. So I have a French the French name because I grew up learning with music. And then by the time I was 14, 15, I was going to jam session all around Paris. And I was always working in the street in Paris late at night and meeting musicians from different horizons. But there are similarity in terms of commitment to the music. So those classical musicians, after the gig, they will come to listen to the jazz jam session. And the people playing the jam session or the concert will be really starting their nights, but the classical people they are done. And then the next morning they had a rehearsal, and the jazz musician was sleeping. So you are like kind of like a parallel worlds, like.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
but when you talk about music itself, they are equally passionate about it, and it was equally serious. And I know there's a tendency for people to think, oh, jazz is fun and classical is serious, but I saw the contrary. For in my experience, the classical musicians that I encountered in Paris, most of them were very nonchalant about oh yeah, it's not a big deal, playing as a star
Mhm.
player, whatever. Maybe it's an attitude. The jazz musicians were very serious, very like practicing a lot, studying the grades, being very in touch with what's happening on the scene today, with continuing the tradition.
Yeah.
So classical music does that too. So,
Yeah, it
but
does.
yeah,
I mean, to your point, I went to the Scat Jazz Lounge in Fort Worth one night. I think it was Larry Golding's group.
yeah.
But I know some people in the Fort Worth Symphony, and they were there.
Mm,
This was a late night show, and they the Fort Worth Symphony musicians came out for the show. So, like point made right there.
and yeah, and also the ressemblance is important to say, but it's also it's personal as well, because I'm a twin. I'm identical twin. So people always called us the twins, and I didn't like that because we're not the same. But for people that didn't care, we are the same, and for real friends, we are different. So
Mhm.
wanted to talk about the resemblance. When somebody, oh, it looks alike, or they're alike, it's something to brush away the personality or brush away who they are, and not really caring about the individual. And it's an allegory to life in general, and to our planet, our world. Like when you don't know somebody else and you assume they look alike, or they are it's kind of assuming without knowing the person, without even engaging with the person. It's having préjugé, no? So ressemblance, this almost like the counterpart of the positive aspect, and then there's like the dark side of it. So uh
Well, that's like in fact, I was going to ask about, the track from your Bonfire album,
Mhm.
called Twin Power,
Oh yeah.
and that's a reference to being a twin also, right?
Yeah. Yeah, my twin is everything to me. Like I miss him a lot, and I'm gonna see him in next week because I'm going to Paris. Uh,
Great.
but so yeah, I'm there's something very special about being a twin. It's very dramatic in a beautiful way.
Mhm.
Drama is part of show business and art. No, if you don't have a little bit of drama, it's hard to really feel. So I'm not saying I'm promoting drama, but my dad is an actor. Drama
Okay.
is a
It makes it interesting a
yeah,
little bit, like,
yeah,
in increments. It's, not
yeah,
not too
exactly.
much, too little. Yeah.
Exactly. Drama for the purpose of art, maybe.
It's like
S-
a little bit of salt and pepper,
Yeah,
just enough.
exactly. Spice. Yeah, spicy. But so my twin is really, we have the same DNA. We share the same origin story, and we grew up in the same environments, but we have completely different perspective on life,
Mhm.
and very almost like sometimes opposite outcomes in our decisions and the way we do things and what we like. But we do have a very essential bond that is like deeper than something I could explain to somebody who's not a twin.
Yeah.
So it's but so my goal here in the piece was for people to immerse themselves into the music and try to imagine what it's like to be a twin or to feel the twin power. So some people tell me they got emotional listening to this track. They think about their siblings, even though they're not twins. They thought about somebody that were not even from a family, a best friend or something like this. And I believe maybe there's a possibility to really feel a similar bond with somebody else. It could be somebody you love deeply, somebody you respect. I'm not sure. For me, it's unconditional love for my twin, and as well as um, a deep appreciation, and also at the same time um, getting frustrated because we almost like sometimes clashing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, you recently had an exciting discovery of a recording that you thought was forever lost that was in it happened in, it was in New York, right?
yeah.
Talk about the story of this live recording of Maze Walker.
Wow. So Maze Walker, first of all, I wrote this tune in 2015, so it was a while ago. And then I did an album. I recorded an album and did a tour. So I was going all around Europe and New York and in the US as well. So and I played in New York in one of my favorite jazz club. It's called This Is Club, and it used to be called This Is Club Coca-Cola when we had a brand partnership, and I think now it's just this is club jazz at Lincoln Center. So it's part of jazz at Lincoln Center with Wynton Marsalis. But so
Yeah.
that was very special for any musicians that plays jazz, especially if you aware and you live in New York. Like playing there, it's almost like getting
Mecca.
yeah, exactly. It's getting a Grammy. That's the same. So
Yeah.
so when they asked me to play, it was actually a show that was in partnership with another radio station. I'm not sure if I can mention them. But
It,
let's yeah, it's
do-
called WBGO.
yeah.
So they were there too at night, and it was my 30th birthday. I was turning 30 years old. I'm not 40 years old, so it was um, February 26th, 2016, and we played that show, and some people filmed. Regina Carter was there in the audience. She's an amazing jazz violinist, and she was there just to check out the show.
Wow.
And I played the show, and it was really special. It was my birthday, and then years later, like a few weeks ago, I got I got a, a message on Facebook from somebody I don't know, somebody that went to the show that follows me, and he said like, hey, here is a show that you did like I don't know a long time ago, and I saw and I remember and I was like, wow, that's really really cool. So I investigate into my old file in my computer, and I found this full video of the entire set, and this I listened to a maze walk of a track, and it seems at the time I think I didn't like it, so I sort of I forgot about it, and I listen to it now with my new ears of 40 years old, so I cannot hear the details anymore because I'm old. No, I'm kidding. So no, so I was listening to it, and I was like, wow, this is really cool, but it's a video, so I'm not sure if so I sent it to Dave Darlington, which is one of the greatest sound engineer, mixing mastering engineer in the industry. He worked with Wayne Shorter, Herbie, Sting, Whitney Houston. He worked with everybody, and he worked also on all of my albums. So from the beginning, the first one. And so I sent him to him a few nights ago, and I
Yeah.
say, hey, here's a video. Do you think you can do something? Do you think I can release it? The next morning, I woke up and I'd mastered it. He said, yeah, man, that's ready. You can.
That they're worth their weight in gold. I mean, they're like that. You cannot beat a good audio wizard for sure.
Yeah, so it's coming out tomorrow. I don't know. It may today for a show because
Yeah.
no, I'm not sure. But it's coming. It's coming out on June 19,
Okay.
and it's very very special. I think it's one of my best work. It's weird to say that it's better than anything. In my opinion,
Right. Yeah.
I like it better than every studio
Do
album.
Do you feel like you're listening or you're like listening, getting and you're tapping into your younger self? Like, can you hear maybe a difference in style of the younger you from then to
Yeah,
now?
which is funny. It's like I don't hear that. What I hear though, I hear the ambiance being in New York. I hear New York. So when I don't even think it's me when I hear that. I hear the band, the piano player, the drum, the double bass, and the jazz violin, and I hear this, and I'm like, I hear the claps in between
Mhm.
the solos,
Yeah.
and there's like you can hear the atmosphere,
Yeah.
and also I really think that night somehow had every combination of so maybe I play a little bit different today. I'm not sure. It's hard to tell, but definitely the energy of that night
Yeah.
is what I wish I've always captured. Even if I don't like the day, if I don't like the way I feel that day, I need to record now. For now, it's a good lesson. I need to
Mhm.
record every single show I'm playing because sometimes there's something very magical you cannot control,
Yeah.
and it's gone forever. And
Mhm.
this one, it's a miracle because
Yeah.
it's there, and I can get it for the rest, like for the rest of my life, and
It's like they
yeah.
say you captured lightning in a bottle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really, really that special because usually I don't like to listen to myself. Even like if it's a good recording, I was like, I don't have time for that. Let's think about the next project. But
Yeah.
this one, I was like, oh, I listened to it 20 times in my car. Like, I was like, wow, this is very cool. I was clapping my hands and stuff.
You're like, "Damn, that's good."
Yeah, I was like,
Uh, so one of the most popular tracks from your solo album, Bonfire, is called Wind, Dust, Memory, and it's approaching
oh yeah.
90,000 streams, getting a ton of radio play across Europe too. What do you think it is about that particular piece that is that is so magnetic with audiences? Like, what is it about that that has led to nearly 90,000 streams?
So I think it's good PR. No, I'm just, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. So and I think it's but this tune is funny because this particular track, Wind, Dust, and Memory, it's a very simple. It's organized very simply. There's a motif, and on top of that, there's an harmony chords, and then a very gentle solo. I didn't went all the way. I went, and eventually, I'll go a little bit virtuoso at the end. But
Mhm.
it's not really about this. It's really about building story, and I think what really worked, and maybe I'm wrong, but what my opinion is like there's two elements. There's the elements of simplicity, it's accessible, and at the same time, there's something where you keep the suspense longer, and then you deliver towards the end. So I think people are kind of like that's the first element. The second element is I think there's many layers of listener that are able to connect with the track. First, the passive listener because it sounds like almost like a track that could be a background track or
Mhm.
something for a documentary.
Yeah.
And actually, some people are asking me to use it for licensing for their podcast, or so it's a good like track for background or for in between shows for radio. You know, for example, you can
Right.
use it here.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
No, so, so and so that's one element. And then the second element, it also talks to musicians. So because there's enough interesting stuff that are a little bit more advanced in terms of where I go, I push a little bit the boundaries.
Yeah.
So I think if you're a musician, you would be like, oh yeah, I dig it. I might not like it, but I understand he went there.
Sure.
And then the last element is like it combines the right amount of time, so it's not crazy long, and it's so I think it was all those
I
elements
love
make
that.
made it like easier to reshare, to think about it,
Yeah.
to connect. So
Did you know when you wrote it and recorded it that this was going to be a really popular one?
it's funny because I waited for Twin Power was gonna be actually Twin Power started way higher. So it's like to the roof, and then this one out of nowhere. But I really like this track from the get go when I was in the studio because I recorded it with no interruption, no overdubs, no edit. So it's
Mhm.
a one take. One
Yeah.
like I stayed an hour in the studio and I just recorded and then went home. So when I finished this track, I was like, wow, I feel something special, but maybe it's just because uh, like I was playing it and nobody was gonna care. But for me personally, I felt it was very different from what I've done before. So I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I didn't know I could do it. This is cool.
Yeah. Yeah, and now you know
Yeah.
what works really
Yeah,
well
exactly.
here.
It's a good lesson
Like
too about not trying. I think the thing is like I was lucky. My producer was also my girlfriend. She's also my girlfriend, and she was in the studio and behind the window, and she's told me to not try to prove anything, and she was like really like for this one for this entire recording, I want you to be uh the way you play at shows, not in the studio. When you in concerts, you don't prove you like having a good time.
Yeah.
So I do the same thing, and that was my mindset. I was like trying to channel, not proving anything, not trying to be insecure about my playing or about showing off or anything. I wanted whatever comes,
Yeah.
just embrace it.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
And I'm sure that as someone who performs live a lot, that is a thing where, being in studio, it's a whole different dynamic, without an audience and getting, it's like live radio versus reported radio or
yeah,
something like that, It is almost like being in you have two different hats in the way. So okay, quick story that has a point.
yeah.
The first time I ever went to France was right after high school, and when I was graduated high school, and so I was like 17, and we were there in Paris, and we're in a restaurant, and like obviously American, and someone asked like what part of America, and so I said Texas, and this man got so excited, and he was like, "Oh, GR,
Yeah, yeah,
Dallas."
yeah,
And I didn't speak any French, and I had no idea what he was saying. GR, Dallas, and then he was like making a bang bang
yeah,
gesture with his hand, and someone was like, "Oh, he's saying JR,"
yeah,
like from the TV show.
yes, of
And
course.
so I didn't know until then that TV show Dallas was incredibly popular in Europe and especially France back in like the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
So that's when I realized that was like the French's impression maybe of what Texas was like oil, um
Definitely.
guns, money. And so I think that's funny because I was wondering like I wanted to ask you, when was the first time that you ever visited Texas, and did you have a certain stereotype in your mind of what Texas was like versus what it's
Wow.
really like?
Well, it's a very good question. And so just to GR, JR, it's very very famous in France still to today. I think it's still sometimes like it's probably still on TV because it's a funny for French people. It's like the most Americans thing you can think about, and everybody knows Jar and the music for it's like Dallas, ton univers impitoyable,
Oh,
ton
it's got
ton ton
lyrics?
ton,
Oh my gosh.
Dallas, ton univers impitoyable. So it's like that's the show music, and it's basically Dallas. You um in in forgiving universe. You will if you it's like if you're not strong you will fail. It's like the name of the lyrics.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's for in the imaginary of French people it was like wow, this is like the successful, like so even there's an expression in France in all around France, it says la classe à Dallas. So it means the class is in Dallas. Like
Gosh.
it's a French say. It's not
Yeah.
even like nobody even know where is Dallas. Sometimes they're just saying like oh, it's just to say oh you fancy la classe à Dallas. Like you say that.
That's
So
so funny.
so so that's in our culture. It's embedded in our culture now. It's too late. So
That's
so
yeah, I had no idea.
so for me, it's true that my preconceived idea of because I was in New York for so long, and so New Yorker, we there's people from all around. You know, there's a lot of people from Texas in New York. Don't even you will not know if you don't ask. You know, I have so many friends that are violinists that were from Dallas. Actually, I didn't even know, or Houston,
Yeah.
and jazz musician from Houston with so many like Robert Glasper, Beyonce. She's not a
Yeah.
jazz musician, but
Yep.
she could be. So anyway, so what I'm saying is like um I'd like kind of like oh yeah, Dallas is gonna be kind of like cowboys and very fancy people, and it's gonna. I was thinking they're gonna be rejecting me because I'm French and like you know also because of my appearance, and I thought it's not going to be diverse. No, it's gonna
Mhm.
be very kind of like conservative and
Mhm.
close minded. You know, in my French mindset and my New Yorker mindset too, and then So I think the first time was when I got to apply for the job at UNT. It was my first time.
Really?
Or maybe I came on a tour, but it was at night. At night we did um, a show in Houston, but it was such a tour where we go everywhere in America.
Yeah,
We're on a
yeah.
tour bus, and basically we arrived and we play and we go back. So I
It's
didn't
all a
see.
blur.
Yeah, I didn't
Yeah,
even know what city we. I think we were in New Orleans at some point. Then
yeah,
Tucson, Arizona. I was like, where are we now? So,
yeah,
so
yeah.
the first time I was aware I was in Dallas was for UNT when I came for the job,
Interesting.
and I was really at the point of my life where I needed a change. I had a very difficult time at the time, personally in my life for many different reasons that nobody
Yeah.
cares about, but I cared deeply. And I arrived to Dallas kind of broken mentally, and physically I was exhausted. And I came here for the interview thinking not so much about it. I didn't have time to think too much. I was really sad. So I came here, left New York to interview, and I was really surprised. My first thought was like, wow, this is a so many different people here. It's like people are from so many. It's like cosmopolitan, almost like in a way. And then my other thing was like, wow, people are super nice, welcoming. Like, I
Hmm.
mean, most people were super nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's always like, problems and people that are not nice in every city, but yeah,
Yeah.
I got lucky, I guess, because
And plus, you live in Denton, and Denton has such a special place in my heart too. I
yeah.
mean, it's such a great place to live.
Yeah, it's such a nice environment because there's all those creatives, and when I was in New York, people were talking about Denton all the
Yeah.
time and UNT all the time. So before I even knew about UNT, I was playing sessions, gigs and things, and each time I was on a gig, there's always somebody saying, "Hey, UNT," or I heard this word all the
Yeah.
time, and I was like, "What is that? What is UNT?" And they talk about Lynn Seaton. I was like, "Oh, Lynn Seaton, the bass player," and I was like,
Mhm.
"What is this? Like, what is this thing? Like,
Yeah.
everybody's talking about
I
in New
mean,
York."
gosh, there's a lot of UNT alums who are in New York still
Yeah.
too. So, before we wrap up, is there anything else that you would like to add?
Um, I wanted to say, talk about just about the premiere of Ressemblance, where
Yeah.
it was premiered at the Wigmore Hall in London, and I knew about the place, but I didn't know it was really like the place for chamber music, and one of the best in Europe. So Wigmore Hall with Hilary Hahn and Tom Poster on piano, because it's a piece for piano and violin, and um, then it was uh, premiered in the US at the Chicago Symphony Center. So I went to Chicago and I saw the US premiere, and Hilary Hahn invited me on stage, so I got to do salutes, and it was very special and extremely um, magical.
How long or when will it be performed here?
That's a good question. That's a question for Hilary Hahn, but I think there's no plans now because she did I think six dates. So she did London, Dublin, Hamburg, um, Toronto,
Mhm.
Chicago, and yeah. So I might miss one, but so I'm not sure. Usually, when you write a piece like this, it takes a year at least to talk because it's a commission first. It was commissioned, but I forgot. It's really important. The piece was commissioned by the Tippett Art
Mhm.
Center,
Mhm.
and which is a classical kind of like commissioner, and they did a lot of like records and
Yeah.
very
It's big time.
yeah.
Yeah.
They're based in Montana, uh, um, and they never work almost with jazz musician. The last one they did was Fred Hirsch, so it's a big deal for me. And then to segue into the what's happening in the future, you might not use it, but I just want you to
I'd love to know.
yeah. So right now it's I turned 40 in February, so I'm a bit over 40 now, and there's so many things. It's funny because I think 40 might be a number where you start actually being taken seriously. Because finally, I don't think I played better than before. I think I actually played better when I was 20, and I had more energy. I mean, I'm not old, but I I think I play differently now. I play with a little bit more, um, kind of, uh, I'm breathing more.
Yes.
But,
Yeah.
uh,
A little more intentional. Yeah.
exactly. So it's funny because I'm getting a lot of opportunities. So I have a company called Tixier LLC, and I contract basically orchestras, a musician for TV shows, for live concerts
Mhm.
or a film. And
Mhm.
I work with Bad Bunny for SNL. I work with John Baptiste for a recording session that he organized in France. I did something with this new band from New Zealand called Santoni. And I'm doing also something for the FIFA right now. But an event is gonna be, I cannot tell you the city right now, but it's gonna
Okay.
be somewhere.
Okay.
and so all those things are happening with my company called Tixland, and it's like really incredible because I also hired a musician from UNT, like some of my students and some of my colleagues
Yeah.
for the Mariah Carey
That's great.
session. So it's something that I wanted to do as a contractor, just to as a side job almost. But I
Uh-huh.
think it's part now of my workflow. So I
Sure.
contract administration stuff, and then I perform, and
Yeah.
so I'm
And
going
you're giving opportunities to some people who, it could be a big break for a lot of
exactly.
people.
So, yeah, for me, it's really important to do that because when I was in New York and I was struggling, really helped me is to play in play with sessions. The first gig with David Letterman and things like this
Mhm.
really got me into the circle and getting
Yeah.
work to afford living in New York. And now I'm able to really, because I have a certain amount of experience and contacts. So what I do is like basically the artist contacts me or contacts my company or his manager, and then I
Mhm.
provide whichever musician they need, and whichever scenario. We did something for Usher, the singer, in for it was in movie theater, like AMC, and they really like credited the musicians,
Yeah.
and so I'm looking at all aspects. When I do that, I'm in a contractor mindset. So I
Yeah.
decide to really make sure that people are paid
Mhm. Mhm.
right,
Mhm.
that they get credited properly, because
Yeah.
it's something that as I've seen it before, even when I was on gigs, we don't get credited, and we are on big
Yep.
projects.
Mhm.
And then the third thing is like I make sure if they are young students or comers into the scene, I try to mentor them in a way. So not too much, because I don't like to be like over
Like a
controlling.
helicopter. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like this, but what I give them some tips. I say like if you arrived at that time, it might be better.
Yeah.
if you if you don't talk the first session and you stay discreet, but people are gonna call you back. This kind of things, and um so that's and so right now I'm going on tour. That's totally different. I'm going on tour with my band,
Uh,
and I'm going to London this week. It's on the 22, so it's like in the
Soon.
yeah,
Yeah.
Sunday, I think. So I'm going to London, and then I'm playing 23rd, 24th, and then I'm going to Paris. I'm playing on 27 June 27, and then I'm going back here, and then I'm going to New York in July, mid July, and then I'm going to West Indies, Martinique, and I come back to Dallas, and then I'm going to
Eh,
Prague.
wow. And then school
Oh
starts
yeah,
after
I
that.
think school start while I'm on tour. No, no, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Well,
I'll
gosh.
be back. I'll be back.
Yes, yes. Please, don't stay away too long. Make sure you're back in time for school to
Yes,
start.
sure.
But it's been such a I've wanted to interview you for so long. So thank you for making time and for being so much fun to interview.
Thank you for
Yeah.
having me.
Yes. Well, we're very very thankful and lucky to have you as our guest.
Well, thank you. I'm happy to be here.